You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Naruto Enters Food Wars? Shokugeki no Souma. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hector Flores on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Naruto, having spent a lifetime protecting Konoha and the people, had a few children with Hinata. After a long and happy life, his life ended, and that is when he didn't realize that this life was only one but a new one was sure to come. As his life ended, he closed his eyes, hearing the cries of his friends, family, and loved ones. He thought he would go to the Pure Lands. Little did he know that the universe had a new purpose for him, and at one point a baby boy named Souma was born, and he was born having a 2-year-old sister, Rindo. The thing is that as long as he grew up he would have strange dreams every single night. It was like he was dreaming that he was living inside an anime. He lived the life of a ninja by the name of Naruto and his older twin sister Naruto. He had a few friends, Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Shino, Shikamaru, and Choji. In the academy he had 2 rivals named Kiba and Rock Lee, but as the final days in the academy came they became good friends who motivated each other to do even better. It was thanks to his friends that he managed to control his chakra enough to pass the exam, upsetting one of the teachers. He tried to use him to steal a scroll with forbidden knowledge and thus able to leave the village and gain a higher rank in a new village that was being created, but it was not to be. He and his sister found out his plans, and once he tried to steal the scroll they chased him into the forest thinking that they would be too scared to follow. The place was called the Forest of Death, and for good reason. It would have been a grueling task for 2 genin to keep up with Mizuki, but the fact is that they both had trained so much under the tutelage of their mother, and with the help of their friends, that they were able to keep up with the traitor like it was nothing. You 2 punks think you can defeat me. I am an elite ninja, not some wet behind the ears rookies like you. Do you honestly think you 2 BRTS are enough to defeat me, you, and what army? That is when Mizuki wished that he kept his mouth shut when both of them raised their hands in the air and pointed at the trees in the forest, and what he saw made him pale. Hundreds if not near 1,000 clones of both brother and sister, and as he saw the clones of him and his sister beat the ever-living daylights out of Mizuki, till he was knocked unconscious, and the clones carried him back to the village to hand him to the ANBU. Naruto and Naruto took the scroll back to the Hokage's office, who promptly thanked them both for protecting the village and promised that they would both be given a reward for an S-class mission. That is when Naruto asked him if he could help him learn more elemental techniques. Seeing what the 2 siblings accomplished, he actually told them that they also are given permission to access any scroll in the library, that which includes the Chunin section of the library. If they want to know what was in the Jounin, they had to prove it by passing the Chunin exams. Naruto considered that a challenge and Naruto considered that motivation to improve, so both of the siblings were happy to hear this, and that is when finally Souma woke up, breathing out and getting ready to start his day. He looked in the mirror, his red hair and golden eyes looked right back at him as he washed his face, teeth, and hands. Again with those dreams. Sure, if this was an anime, the story would be exciting, the drama, the fight, and even the intrigue was all there. But can't help but wonder why I always have that dream. Like I am this Naruto guy, he couldn't be more different than I am. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, and both I and my sister have red hair and gold-colored eyes. So why do I keep dreaming about this guy, or is it that these dreams are something else? Rindo opened the door and grabbed Souma before she pushed out of the bathroom. Look, you can go through your stupid philosophical self-exploration in another room. Some of us also need to use the bathroom. Unlike you, I actually care what I look like. That is when Souma told her that she was just 9 years old. Why the hell would she place so much obsession with her looks if her personality was rotten? The thing is, they could actually share the mirror. It was sure big enough for 2 of them. When she heard his words, at first she thought that he was just making things up to make himself feel better, but as she looked in the mirror she realized that maybe her brother was not talking nonsense. Souma was her younger brother, but the fact is that sometimes he would say things no one would imagine a child would even think about. It was like he for a brief moment was possessed by the spirit of a person who was much older than Souma was and spoke to her and others through Souma. It was a scary notion, considering that she saw his talents in the kitchen, something no 7-year-old should or would have. At 7 years old he could use a kitchen knife like he had a lifetime of experience using knives and other bladed tools. In darts he was almost terrifying with his accuracy. He could hit the bullseye with one eye while standing on one leg, on a chair. He knew how to fix clothes and how to hit something to make it move in such a way that it would move out of the way without harming it. His sister once lost her favorite doll. It fell out of her window when they were in a high-price resort where their parents were working in favor. The thing is, it was in the middle of a lake that had vicious stray dogs that would attack anyone that came near it. In fact, people in the city tended to avoid it because not even the dog catchers would dare to go up against the demon dogs, as they came to refer to these strays. Souma heard her cry and asked her what was wrong, and she told him. When hearing this, Souma did something that initially scared Rindo, which jumped out the window. But in reality, he didn't jump out. He began to casually walk down the outside wall of the hotel as if he was walking on the ground, and he walked over to where the doll was. In reality, he could have beaten the stray dogs into SBMSN and they would be taken by the dog catchers, but he didn't. He walked up to the growling dogs and looked into their eyes. I know, you were abandoned, hurt, mistreated, and abused. They got their fun with you, and when they grew bored tossed you away, to live here near this lake eating whatever you can to survive. Don't worry, and don't be afraid. I understand what you are feeling. So how about instead you help me get my sister's doll, and I promise that I will help you find a better and happier home. One of the dogs had the look on his face that screamed BS, as he looked like he didn't believe him, till Souma bit his finger, and with the BLD, he did a series of hand signs till energy was felt by all of them and a small dog appeared out of nowhere, shocking them all into silence. So what do you think, Paku? Would these dogs make good ninken? The small dog looked at Souma and began to laugh. First off, how do you know who I am, and why? Do you feel so familiar? As for these guys, sure, they are young enough, I can WHP them into good ninken, but first, answer my questions, cause I sure as hell never met you. Souma looked at the dog that was summoned and he could practically hear Kakashi laughing his ass off. He picked him up and looked at his face to face. Souma smiled at him and said, Paku, you were one of the 8 ninken of Kakashi, my teacher, and brother. How can you forget me? I can't believe our friendship meant so little to you. You even once offered to let me touch your heavenly soft paws. We were good friends. I swear on my buddy Gamakichi and his dad Gamabuddha, I am happy to see you again, believe it. Paku looked at his goofy expression and the way he said that it brought him to tears. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. A person he knew died so long ago, and here he was trying to help these dogs, which make him remember that Kakashi once did the same thing himself. Naruto, I can't believe it. It really is you, isn't it, the hyperactive knucklehead ninja of Konoha? What the hell is going on? How did you end up looking like that? I don't know honestly, Paku. I've been having dreams of my old memories every night, until I saw my sister cry about that doll she loved so much. I decided to take a leap of faith and accept those dreams as memories. Suddenly I was hit by knowing things that were impossible, and do things that shouldn't be real, hence how I could summon you here. Paku asked him why would it matter if they could become good ninken. The age of the ninja was long gone, to which Souma told him that the age of the ninja was not gone, it was simply a small pause, and thanks to his memories and knowing this could have happened to other ninjas, it is only a matter of time before ninjas return to this world. I asked because I wanted to give these guys a good home, education, and purpose. Kakashi let me sign that contract that you made long ago. That is why you and the other ninken became a summon clan in the first place. I am thinking that these guys could help me and this would give them a better life. So what do you think? You think you can train these dogs into good ninken? Paku laughed. Why the hell not? Kakashi managed to train you and those other 2 pups well, didn't he? Why would I do any less or have more trouble doing the same? Listen up, you dogs, if you want a better life and are willing to work hard for it, to listen to what I will teach you and become part of the pack. Let me see those paws, those that do follow me. All 10 of the pups present raised one paw, and as they did they disappeared as they were summoned back to the realm of the dog clan. Paku looked at him. You know, you might be right, many of the ninjas that we knew could be reborn if it happened to you. I don't doubt it happened to others, but what should I call you? I need to know to update the contract when I go home, so what is your name? He looked at the pup and told him, his name was Souma Yukihira, and to be ready cause if he ever needed him or his clan, he would be sure to call on them, believe it. Joichiro came to see what damage his two children had caused in their room, expecting them to fight. Instead, he saw them actually get along better than ever before, even if it involved a rather strange story about his son literally walking down a wall and on water. He joked and asked maybe he should ask if he could turn water into wine. Something his wife didn't find very funny. Alright, jokes aside, since they are getting along so well, I think we can actually do what you wanted. I have to go to Denmark to help one of our friends over winter, and you want to take Rindo in your little world tour of helping all those stuck-up diplomats in God knows how many godforsaken countries. Tomoko told him that doing that work will allow them to continue to go to any country and help their friends without the hassle of borders. Souma was about ready to lose his patience with his father, since he figured that he was making fun of him. So you think what Rindo said is a lie? Well, this is going to shock the living hell out of you, but you sort of asked for it. Here goes. B once again bite his finger, and with his BLD did the same thing again and summoned Paku, which in fact shocked both of his parents. Don't just stand there, Paku, why don't you say hello? The small dog looked at Souma and smiled, and told him the two people he called his parents. Well, he couldn't be more right even if he tried. Their bodies smell differently, but the scent that comes from their souls is the same. He greeted the mentor of his friend Kakashi, and his mate, to which Souma asked if he was serious. These two are your parents, Naruto. I mean Souma, don't you remember Minato Namikaze the fourth Hokage, and your mom Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot habanero? When she heard the dog say that name and looked at him, she rushed to hug him. It was her baby boy, which shocked also his sister, who was in the same room, and made her realize that she was not going crazy, as seeing him walk down a wall awakened in her memories she didn't know she had, memories of her like as Naruto's twin sister. She walked closer to her mother and she hugged her too. So my twin in a previous life is now my little brother. Isn't that strange? We often argued about who the elder sibling was. Well, this solves that little argument, doesn't it, Naruto? To which, Souma looked at her and he glared at her. That attitude, however, makes you sound less mature, Naruto. If anything, he was more upset at his father than anyone else. So you are Minato, that explains it. The constant challenges, the way you seem to relish making me miserable by trying to put me down, and let's not forget your heartless way of making things needlessly hard for me. I should have seen it, but Paku was the one to figure it out. Joichiro asked him, what does he mean? An Uzumaki has more chakra than most people, so to us, chakra control is extremely hard, but you dear old dad had to make it even harder for both of us by stuffing inside yous half of the most dangerous known tailed beast. You did it to protect the village. Great for the village, but not so great for me and my sister. Our chakra capacity would make control hard. This made it nearly impossible. Joichiro didn't realize that his son had this pent-up anger. When you ripped Kurama in half, and yes, that is the name of the 9 tails, you literally split yin and yang. Sure, my sister got to spend time with the kind-hearted and caring side of him, but I got his pure hatred and every horrible emotion he ever had or would have shved into me. If it wasn't for one reason, one solitary reason, would have agreed to work with Orochimaru and burn Konoha into oblivion. Tomoko had to ask her son what changed his mind, to which Souma said people that cared about him. He found love, friends, and a place where he could live and share wonderful adventures with. These people made what could have been a nightmare into his treasure. This is why he became Hokage, and why he fought so hard to defend the place that long ago once mocked him, his dream of becoming Hokage. Kurama became my best friend and most loyal ally, and someone who was always there when I was miserable because we understood each other. It is easy to love a person who treats you kindly, but to love those that hate you, now that is a challenge. Joichiro saw that many of the things he has done had unintentionally hurt his son's feelings and that they need to spend some time to heal those unknown wounds. Some father-son bonding was essential, but the problem is that he needed to go somewhere. Alright, look, I have to go to help prepare this massive feast for a friend of our family, and it will be in Denmark. I will stay there for a couple of days if not weeks, helping my friend. Your mother is going to go around doing her humanitarian work as a part of Chefs Without Borders, trying to improve the nutrition of people in need by educating them about healthy food practices and alternatives. Joichiro looked at Souma. All I wanted to do is motivate you to become a better son. I never did it to hurt you. You might not know this, but when a person becomes a parent, there is no manual on how to be the perfect parent. Sorry that I messed up, but going to Denmark with me will give you plenty of chances to vent your frustrations, and I want to hear about those adventures. Souma began to lighten up and smile at him. I know how hard it is to be a good father. After all, I messed up too when I raised my 2 kids. Upon hearing this, Tomoko jumped between them and grabbed Souma by his shirt and looked into his eyes. You had kids, details, I want details. Who was the mother, how many, and how did you mess up? Joichiro tried to calm down his wife and looked at Souma with a smile. Alright, one of my wives was Hinata. You know Hinata Hyuga. We got married and had 2 kids together, Boruto and Himawari. How did I mess up? I never taught my children how to control their anger. One day my son and daughter were fighting over who got to spend time with their favorite plush toy, a bear, and each was pulling to try and get it from the other. Well, my son unintentionally used too much force and caused the bear to be ripped in half. This caused her to go blind with rage and she was ready to punch her brother into the Pure Lands. I had to step between them to save Boruto. Her punch was so severe that she not only knocked me but Kurama out with a single punch that made me bend over and be unconscious for an entire day. A person had to pretend to be me for my inauguration as Hokage. It seems they will have a lot to talk about and share as they go on their little trip, and thanks to the judicious use of shadow clones they managed to both clean everything in the kitchen and pack their bags. Rindo was not happy to hear that she was going to basically have to go around doing work around so many strangers that could be potentially dangerous. Until Tomoko told her that her innocent act needs a little work, cause neither Joichiro nor Souma was buying that lie. Paku looked at Joichiro, and he simply dropped another truth bomb. He asked Joichiro when was he going to drop his henge and turn back to his real form. This confused both Souma and Rindo until Paku explained that Minato was born a girl, but due to the war and the need to increase population, a technique was made to allow a woman to impregnate other women, and this is how Minato became their father or female father. Rindo looked at her mother and couldn't help but to wonder why the hell would she even marry another woman. From how you are looking at me, you are wondering how we became a couple. It is quite simple. I was known for my fiery temper growing up and only Minato put in the effort to get to know me, so that is why we fell in love. And Joichiro decided to continue the explanation, and I used a henge because at the time I was Hokage nobody would accept a female as Hokage, that this is why I had to do that. He explained that again in this life he was also female, and once again there aren't that many professional chefs who are women. I used the shadow clone to make people think that I had a sister, and that female clone has gone through the academy in Konoha and in Tatsuki Academy, and she pretended to be my sister so I can SWCH with her, and that allows me to take my true form without raising any suspicion. As the next day finally came and they got to check out of the hotel, they each got into one of the vehicles that would take them to the airport. Joichiro kissed his wife and wished her to be safe, and she did the same. They both went towards the airport aisle where they would board their airplane. They actually needed to use the airplane because Souma and Rindo still needed to have the flight of the Thunder God placed on them, and then they would need to leave one of these seals at each of the locations they would visit. Little did Joichiro know that both Souma and Rindo actually already attuned the seal for their chakra network, and in fact, Rindo was able to place a seal with a ring she saw her brother make, and she promised to help him by having one of his shadow clones turn into a teddy bear, and she would take that clone with her to all the places her mother cooked in, and while she cooked the clone could place the seal for Souma. The reason why they both agreed was two: first, they hated to travel on board a plane, and second, that the food on these flights was absolutely disgusting. If they could they would want to bring some snacks with them, but the first time they did that, the stewardess took Souma's snacks and told him not to bring food that has not been approved by the airline. As she left, he could only call this BS, as she and two other stewardesses apparently split the spoils of her robbery, meaning they were eating his snacks, and the mere mention of the snacks which he prepared and cooked was just a mere excuse. Joichiro told his son that he should be happy that those ladies went through all the trouble to get his snacks and that they clearly were enjoying it if the giggles he heard were any indication. The movie, the food, and the idiots that were sitting near them were all awful. the other passenger was snoring so loud that neither would get any chance to sleep, so Joichiro asked him many questions about his time as a ninja and as a Hokage. To say that he was not happy to hear how Kakashi of all people didn't focus on his entire team and rather focused on making sure the Uchiha heir was trained was easy for Souma to see. DMN it, Kakashi, you were named team leader, not tutor to the apparent Uchiha heir. I honestly don't know where I went wrong with that boy. After being in battle and so many missions in his team, you would think he would learn that teamwork also implies to him. Ignoring you, that was something I would never expect from him. Souma asking him would be so shocking. At the time Kakashi still had no idea who he was and that in fact, he was his adoptive brother. He later found out and made up for that, which is why he accepted to become Hokage the time that he needed to be trained and educated to be able to do the work of a Hokage. Most of it was BS, be polite, civilly treat others, try to get people who argue to come to a peaceful agreement, and of course the mountain of paperwork that I had throughout the day. If there is something I wish we had back then is the internet and the tablets we now use. To think of how many trees were cut down to make the paper for all that paperwork is truly staggering. Joichiro told him he can say that, but in reality, he was just complaining because he didn't like to deal with the avalanche of documents that any Hokage had to deal with. That is when Souma began to laugh and looked at his father. The amount of paperwork, even the meetings were no problem at all. I did all the paperwork each day, and even managed to spend time with my wife, son, and daughter. Joichiro had to ask his son how. He remembered the heartache of having to be away from his wife and children because of the monster that he had to slay each day. That paperwork kept him so busy that they only had 2 kids. Souma, thinking carefully, decided to simply let go of the truth bomb that would shock his father to the very core of his being. He looked at Joichiro and told him he knew the secret of how to slay that monster and it was easy and efficient. Joichiro asked him to tell him the secret, what technique could get all that paperwork done so quickly, that allowed him to be at meetings and still managed not to lose precious time with his wife and kids. He only had 2 words to tell him: shadow clones. Joichiro was stunned when he heard him and asked him to explain. Shadow clones take a lot of chakras to make, that is true. However, they also have a nifty memory sharing function, which means everything the shadow clone does and reads, that knowledge goes back to the person who made the shadow clone. Once the shadow clones are released, gets injured, or the shadow clone just runs out of chakra. So with 4 shadow clones, any Hokage should be able to take care of both paperwork and going to a meeting, without having to sacrifice time with his family. Souma looked at him and smiled, and don't tell me that a Kage can't make 4 shadow clones, because to be named Kage the person has to be the most skilled ninja in their village, so 4 shadow clones, even 2, shouldn't be that much of a problem for a Kage. As Souma and his father landed and they got through customs, they were finally in Denmark. The place reminded him of that one time he went to help that princess who pretended to be just an actress in Snow Country. The place was a lot colder than what he imagined, or it maybe is because he was wearing summer clothes and the temperature difference was getting to him. As Souma walked out of the airport, he had already sent a shadow clone to place his seal on one of the local monuments, and as this was done, Souma knew that he could eventually come back to this country whenever he needed. Joichiro was not fooled one bit and asked him why would he want to be able to return to this country, and the answer was not something he expected. For the same reason they were here in the first place. Maybe one day he would have to come back to Denmark to help a friend. If he could use the flight of the Thunder God to travel to Denmark much as he could, they could have saved time, but now that will no longer be an issue. Joichiro was happy to see that his son was thinking about things he would need for the future. Happy to see that you are planning, son, but right now I need you to do something for me. My friend wants to do a surprise birthday party for his daughter, a girl by the name of Alice Nakiri. You know the picture of the girl I showed you on the plane. I need you to do me a favor and keep this girl entertained while I prepare the food for that birthday party. I know you can do that. Souma told him that it shouldn't be much of a problem. He can help her have some fun and this would keep her from noticing what he and her father were trying to do. Which to Joichiro sounded like a good plan, so he agreed. He went a little further and suggested that maybe becoming her friend would make things easier. Souma got to the hotel and began to wander the garden, only that it was mostly covered in snow, and there among the snow was someone. He only saw her picture, but the picture was a couple of years younger than the person he was seeing. She looked sad for some reason as she was trying to make figures on the snow. He quickly walked up to her and she must have been so depressed that she didn't even notice him, until he said hello, which sort of startled her for a second because he said it in Japanese. She looked at him and asked him who was he, almost afraid of him. He smiled and said his name is Souma Uzumaki, and he wanted to try and make her smile since she looked so sad and lonely. She looked at him and began to laugh. Nice to meet you, Souma. I am Alice Nakiri, my dad owns this hotel, isn't that something? Yeah, I am sad. It seems my dad and mom are so busy with the hotel they seem to have forgotten my birthday, but what did you plan to do to make me feel better? Souma quickly suggested why not build a snowman? Or he could show her how to make a snow angel. This made her giggle and he said that and quickly nodded his head. Sure, but we got to have a snowball fight, but tell me Souma, do you have any hobbies? I like to learn how to cook from my mom, how about you? Souma told her that he also is learning to cook from his parents. He didn't mean to brag, but he could make a very decent plate of ramen. As the two talked about their favorite foods, they quickly made the large snowballs and quickly began to put one on top of the other, creating the figure until they had almost finished the snowman, but they were missing things for the eyes and the nose, so he used branches he got off the ground for arms, a carrot he had which he told her he had it as a snack he was going to have later, and 2 buttons he carried in a small sewing kit. As they admired their creation, Souma told Alice that she shouldn't worry about her parents. They might be busy but they do love her. After all, his parents are also quite busy and he was sure they loved him and his sister, to which Alice began to ask him questions about his family. She was amazed that his family had a small restaurant and that it was quite popular in the town where he lived. She constantly asked him stories about his childhood. You know Souma, I got a cousin, but she is so mean to me sometimes. I honestly think she hates me. Souma told her that maybe she is afraid of getting close to people because she thinks they might hurt her feelings. After all, it was something that had ever happened to him more than once. Alice, no matter what, the end of the day that cousin of yours is part of your family. You can argue, you can fight, and you can compete against each other trying to outdo each other in something you both like. But never forget that family is the people you can always count on, so try to be nice to them as you would have them be nice to you. Alice asked her what if her cousin was just being a JRK, and just born mean. Souma laughed and told her that nobody is a JRK without there being a reason for it. If you think about it, if you get to know your cousin and know why she is acting like that, you might understand it and can see the real reason why she is acting like that. If you understand each other, you will see that she is one of your precious people, and will be happier for it. As he lay on the snow and began to move his arms and legs, and when he was done he showed her and she giggled when she saw it, and told him yes, she knows how to make a snow angel, but it was funny seeing him do that. They both talked about things they liked, things they didn't like, and what they wanted to do when they grew up. They had much in common since they both wanted to be the best chefs in the world. As they were having fun, Joichiro saw them both and he quickly used hand signs to get Souma's attention and tell him that it was time for the big surprise and that they should head to the dining room of the hotel. Souma, being his memories of being an experienced ninja, recognized the nonverbal sign language and nodded his head in response. Say, Alice, I don't know about you, but I didn't get a chance to eat lunch, so I am feeling a bit hungry. Why don't we go to the dining room and see if we can get something to eat? I would love to taste some traditional Danish dishes. As they walked into the hotel, Alice told him by now there was nothing prepared, so he might not find anything to eat. After all, they only cook things that guests order from the room service menu. Souma told her that as long as he could find a kitchen and had some ingredients, he could cook something nice for both of them, which made her very curious. She guided him towards the kitchen that the employees used, wanting to see what Souma could do with something that was provided for employees to cook and eat. Alice, I think I can cook something nice with this. Come on, sit down and we can talk as I cook. She did so only because she was curious about what he was going to prepare. She asked him about his family, and he told her he had a father, mother, and sister. He also told her that she shouldn't let things or people ruin her relationship with her family. People are friends and acquaintances, but family is BLD. He began to tell her about 2 girls. They had been the best of friends, they loved each other as if they were sisters, but then they entered the same school and they both developed a crush on the same boy. This was getting juicy. It was to her like a story from a soap opera. So Souma continued, what was once a loving friendship became a bitter rivalry, what was a crush became a bitter obsession, and in the end, the friendship that brought them so much joy, love and happiness was ruined, even as that boy who they wanted to make their own told them time and time again that he was not interested in them at all. These girls fought each other and did horrible things to discredit and ruin their supposed chances to woo that boy, but in the end, it was useless, because the boy wanted a girl who was talented, skilled, and strong, a woman who would stand by his side no matter what difficulties would come their way, and when he became an adult he did, and he and this woman got married, had a couple of daughters, but that these girls caused to their friendship never was forgotten and they would never be the friends they once were. He kept cutting and doing things to the ingredients, but she was now really curious. How did he know this? All of this happened in another life, so he had no problem at all telling her everything that he could about that particular time of his former life, and as he finished he placed 2 plates on a table and he served the food. He used a few hot dogs and cut them up, cooked them and then mixed them in flour, yeast, milk, and butter. He mixed it all until the batter began to rise and he grabbed it and made pancakes with pieces of cooked hot dog in them. He served her a stack of 6 pancakes with butter and maple syrup, on the other hand, had served himself 6 but had a whole stack of them on a separate plate should either of them want some more. Somehow some of the employees came into the staff kitchen something about smelling something delicious in the air, and the entire staff served themselves 2 of the pancakes and were enjoying them as Alice was taking her first bite. She loved the taste of it and was impressed with how could he prepare something this tasty with a few ingredients that were practically stuff found in an ordinary grocery store. She asked him how did he learn to cook. He was 9 years old like she was, and Souma told her his father and mother taught him how to cook, and he sometimes cooks them a nice breakfast as a birthday gift. She was having a great time eating and talking with the people. It was almost like she just let go of all these notions of class and they all enjoyed the food and talked to each other about the way they liked to make their pancakes. She came to learn that there is not one but hundreds of ways to make pancakes. It was a food that would be considered plebeian or food as eaten by common people, but there were so many ways to prepare them that she was fascinated and to think it was the food she would normally not be exposed to. That is when they both heard a woman laugh as she walked into the staff kitchen. She held a fan to hide her face, but the way she laughed was strange. Fufufu, to think that I would come and find you here, daughter. Apparently you found you knight in shining armor. I have never seen you show such interest in a boy before. Fufufu. Souma looked at the well-dressed woman and he simply wanted to correct her. I rather you call me a ninja. She laughed and accused him of trying to steal her daughter's heart, to which Souma told her to be very careful of what she said, cause that could very well happen in the future. The lady asked him who his parents were. She would look them up to see how good of a potential groom for her daughter this boy was. My father is Minato Namikaze, and my mother is Kushina Uzumaki, but you know him, he is supposed to be cooking in the main kitchen. She laughed again. So you are his son. Where are your sister and mother? Souma told her that she was doing her work as part of Chefs Without Borders, so who knows what country are they in at the moment. Mom and sis go around many needy countries to educate people in healthy and easily cooked foods in countries where they are suffering from famines and other terrible things, like natural disasters and such. As soon as they had finished the meal, Souma and Alice were told by her mother that they need to go to one of the dining rooms since apparently Souma's and Alice's father wanted to have a word with them. Souma knew of course what was going to happen, but in order for this to work, he played along as if he had no clue what was going on. Alice began to wonder if they got into trouble for using ingredients that were there for the staff to cook their meals. They both walked into the dark hall and it was clear that she was pretty nervous as she quickly held onto Souma's hand. The minute that they made it to the middle of the hall, suddenly all lights turned on and they were in an absolutely beautifully decorated hall, making it quite clear what was going on, as the people jumped from hiding and screamed "Happy Birthday Alice," upon which a banner was released showing that exact same sentiment. As soon as she calmed down, she was hugged by her father, who clearly saw that she was both happy and still quite surprised. In secret she had been afraid that they forgot all about her birthday since her parents are always so busy. She looked at Souma's father and he simply smiled as he had apparently seen how Alice had been holding onto Souma's hand. He knew that Souma's mother would simply laugh when they talk about this. Sorry, I know those surprise birthdays are quite common nowadays, but thanks to Souma here we were able to get things done rather quickly while making sure the birthday girl didn't know this was going to happen. Now come on, it's time for the birthday girl to cut the cake and for everyone to enjoy the food. Before you wonder about it, yes, Souma got you a nice birthday gift. Alice asked him what was the gift, to which Souma told her that would be ruining the surprise, so if she wants to know she will have to wait till they began opening the gifts. She pouted and punched him on his right shoulder. As they ate the food, she began to marvel at the food prepared by such a world-renowned chef. This is something she wished she could tell Irina, since apparently she simply loves those books that he wrote. This however made her ask, how does he know Souma, and why did it seem like he came with him to the party? Joichiro laughed and told her that Souma is actually like family. He was a good friend of his father and mother, and since he didn't want to come to the party by himself, he decided that he could keep Alice entertained while they finished putting the final touches to the birthday decorations. She relaxed, and as she was ready to blow out the candles she made a wish. However, Souma knew better than to ask her what she wished for, but he had a sneaky suspicion since she was blushing a few seconds after she blew out the candles on her birthday cake. The birthday gift was a teddy bear that had her favorite color, or really liked it, because the minute she saw it she hugged it like it was the best gift she ever got. It could be that she knew that it came from Souma, or that she really liked it, but she was not going to tell the reason to anyone, well, maybe her cousin Irina. The party was over, and as such, it was time for them to return back to Japan. They were told they could sleep in one of the rooms for the night and they would be given a ride to the airport early next morning. Alice was not happy to hear this and asked why can't they stay and when was she ever going to see him again. Souma told her that it was because Joichiro was actually teaching him how to become a better cook and that his parents wanted him to stay with Joichiro since it would make them worry less. Joichiro saw this and laughed, telling her that she shouldn't worry since Souma is eventually going to go to Tatsuki Culinary Academy and transfer to it after he finished high school. Since he is 9, it will not be long before they can see each other again once he becomes an academy student. This made her relax a little, but she asked him to become a great cook because she wants to see how much he can improve, and she promised that she would do the same. As Joichiro and Souma woke up the next morning, they knew that they had to fly to get back to their country, but this time Souma didn't bother in cooking any snacks because he knew that it could happen again and the flight attendants would use any excuse to steal his snacks as they did before. He was sorely tempted in cooking some snacks and cooked them with prank recipes that had laxative powder as one of the ingredients, but Joichiro told him that he shouldn't do something like that. He had to cook food that was both healthy and tasty for the people eating it. As they boarded the plane, he tried to sneak in some of his snacks, and sure enough, the same ladies that were on the plane before were practically waiting for him, and much to his distress and anxiety he didn't even let them give him that excuse. He simply gave them the bag of snacks and told them to enjoy as he walked towards his seat, and he saw Joichiro smiling, giving him a head pat and messing up his hair as he rubbed his head. Joichiro said that he made him very proud. They finally made it to Tokyo, and apparently, they took a bus to the Toho region, where he apparently was doing yet another favor for one of his friends and a person that always gave him a great price on seafood. Souma looked at his father and knew better than to think this was without an actual reason. So what's the plan, Dad? Another birthday? What favor are we doing and how am I involved? Joichiro told him that the daughter of the main seafood supplier apparently has a small problem. She lacks confidence in her skills, which, as Souma knows, it can be quite a problem for culinary students since it will cause them to doubt themselves and even make mistakes that they should be able to avoid. So his friend asked him to come and help her teach her some cooking techniques, and Souma would help her become more confident. So basically I need to do what we had to do with Hinata and get her to stop being such a mess with her lack of confidence and her shyness. Got it? I know exactly how to solve this, but I want her to learn to love learning also, so how about I help you during those times you teach her, to make her learning a lot easier. Joichiro told him that it was a good idea and he was all for it. As they finally reached the home of his friend, he could tell someone was cooking, and from the way it smells it was actually quite tasty. The only reason he got so focused on the scent of the food is because of two facts, the first being that they didn't have breakfast, and the snacks that he prepared he decided to give them to the flight attendants, so that means Souma and Joichiro were both quite hungry. As Joichiro greeted his friend and his wife, he walked into the kitchen where he saw a young woman cooking something. It was fish, fruits, and vegetables. He walked over to where she was and she didn't even notice him. She was so focused on what she was cooking that Souma walked up right next to her and she didn't even hear him. He quickly began to notice what she was doing, and for the most part, it was some good basic cooking technique, but he knew from what he learned about cooking that there was much room for improvement. But first, he needed to fix the girl's confidence and shyness if his first guess about her was correct. He quickly pretended to clear his throat, which had the expected result of shocking her, but he quickly caught the knife she threw in the air as she heard him. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. In fact, I came with a friend of my father to visit you and your family. My father even told me that I really needed to come and meet you since apparently you are an amazing cook, and he thought that we could learn much from each other. My father's friend is going to teach both of us, so this is going to be a lot of fun." She looked at him and smiled. "I am Megumi Tadakoro. I am quite happy that your father praised my cooking, although I am not really that talented. Mind telling me what is your name and the name of the person you said will teach us?" Souma looked at her and smiled as he introduced himself as Souma Uzumaki, and the person who is teaching him how to cook and friend off his father is someone she probably has heard about before, Joichiro Saiba, or currently Joichiro Yukihira. She of course heard about Joichiro Saiba. He and his wife were both students of Tatsuki Culinary Academy, and they managed to defeat the entire elite council and quite a few of the instructors in food battles. This earned them recognition by the culinary industry and earned them the right to graduate early, something that had never happened before since the academy was first established. Megumi was getting so nervous that she was apparently writing something with her finger on her open palm. Seeing her nervous, he decided to simply take a taste of what she was cooking, and it was delicious, fruity, and savory, a real soothing taste of it. The vegetables were perfectly crisp and tender. Souma looked at her and smiled. "I don't know why you are so nervous. From what I tasted of what you are cooking, this is going to be an absolutely delicious dish. You prepared the ingredients almost like an expert, you chose them to complement each other, and even then the flavor is something that makes a person want more. I don't know how it will end when you are finished cooking, but so far I can tell this is going to be so good that I am honestly getting a little hungry just thinking about it." Megumi looked at him and asked him if he was kidding, and that is when he told her that no, he was dead serious. The small sample he got from tasting what she was cooking was so good that it was making him feel a bit hungry, and so he asked her if he could use some of the ingredients in the kitchen and try to make a side dish to complement what she was preparing. Wanting to see what he could do in the kitchen, Megumi told him to feel free and use anything he wanted from the fridge or the pantry. Souma began to prepare his ingredients, but seeing him cut and prepare the ingredients made her almost want to help him, so she decided to do a little prep work while he cooked his dish, as she finished her own. The way that he was doing this was not a way that she would have thought of, but something about it made Souma look like he was confident in his skills, to which Megumi asked him how can he be so confident about his cooking skills. Souma laughed and looked at Megumi as he told her that in fact he messed up and made mistakes a lot when he first started to learn to cook, but as long as he can learn what he did wrong and use it to get better, then there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, he told her that sometimes people have a chance to learn more when they fail rather than when they succeed in their first try. I am confident because I know what I can do, and learning from my mistakes taught me how to make the best out of something that could be called a failed attempt. Your dish I tasted is great, you only need to believe in yourself. If you don't, who will? After a month of them teaching her to be more confident and learning to improve her cooking skills, she became much more confident and she was making great progress in developing her own recipes. She was very happy to have Souma as her friend, and he was a constant source of encouragement, without realizing that she had started to develop a crush on the young man. As the month came to an end, they finally were able to return home, where they would start to open their restaurant and cook food for their many regular customers, and maybe even some that these regulars wanted to have their friends taste the food they like so much. After they finally made it home, it took another month before Souma's mother and sister returned back home, in which Souma had developed a few new recipes, several that he wrote on his palate cleanser menu. These were things that would be considered disgusting, but much like Joichiro, they used these recipes to cleanse their taste buds and allow them not to be influenced by the taste of food they ate, allowing a much more clear taste of the dish they were preparing. Rindo couldn't stop telling her father and brother about the many amazing things she found in her travels with her mother. Some were amazing, but some were quite terrifying. They quickly began to work together to cook and serve food for all those that came to their little restaurant, which in the small shopping street had become quite the loved and preferred place to get meals, but all sort of people, students coming home, people getting off work, dating couples, and even a few elderly couples who now time to spend with each other. The place was not one of these fancy 5-star restaurants. It was quaint and had a feel of being homey, the one thing that people who ate there could agree on is that the food was made by people who actually cared about their customers and wanted to enjoy a tasty and healthy meal. It also had one form of entertainment. The children and the parents would sometimes challenge each other to food wars, which were competitions of who could outdo each other when it comes to cooking. The format was simple: 2 people, either one of the parents or even the brother and sister. There were times when they even made food wars against each other, and the battle would be for the 2 participating to make a dish using a randomly selected ingredient. No matter what the ingredient had to be present in their dishes. So they often had some of their regular customers act as judges and vote on who made the best dish. After a year they decided that it was time for them to go on another trip. Tomoko once again took her daughter with her on her Chefs Without Borders work to educate and cultivate healthy eating practices in needy countries. So many nations and so many people needed help, so they would go on another trip. To Rindo this means she got to learn more cooking techniques and traditions from other countries, to experience and taste ingredients that were unknown to her, a true culinary adventure. Souma had to go with his father to help him with yet another favor he was doing for people that he met during his old academy days. This time it was the headmaster of the school. It seems one of his granddaughters was born with an extremely rare sense of taste, and very few foods could satisfy her, so much so that she started to try and learn to cook for herself. This party was going to be held in the home of the headmaster, and Joichiro told him that her family as a whole was involved in and had a say in everything that is part of the culinary world, so he asked his son to try and be nice to them. He was always nice, but Joichiro had a reason why he said that. He still remembered his fellow council member, and he was the father of the girl whose birthday they would be cooking for, but the man was not the easiest person to get along with, and the way he treats his daughter is liable to PSS of Souma so bad that he might want to get physical with him and beat him up. As they both left for the place where the party was going to take place, Joichiro told Souma about Irina and that she was born with an amazing skill, one that could be called a superhuman sense of taste, that could detect any imperfections in any food with a single taste. This made Souma realize that this could be considered both a curse and a blessing. It was a double-edged sword if anything else. The skill was called by some god tongue or god's palate by some other people. If a person focused too much on the imperfections of everything they taste, this would eventually cause them to feel that everything they eat is disgusting and would kill any enjoyment that could be felt from both eating and cooking, making the act that should bring joy nothing more than a chore. He also knew that calling the skill something kin to having divine levels of skill would and could inflate the ego of the person, making them blind to the fact that they do not understand the proper use of that skill. As they arrived at the main home of the Nakiri family, Souma and Joichiro were welcomed by the headmaster of the very same academy where Joichiro and Tomoko both graduated. He was happy to see Joichiro, and the only thing Joichiro could ask is where is the kitchen, since he and Souma needed to get started cooking the food for the party. The elder guided them towards the kitchen while giving them a grand tour of the extravagant home. Both Souma and Joichiro, once in the kitchen, began to work together to make all the food for the party. Joichiro would prepare and cook the main dishes, while Souma would focus on the desserts. The people that worked in the kitchen were amazed at seeing how both cooks were working in perfect harmony with each other. When one was tasting and improving the dish of one, the other continued to work on the dish that person was working on. It didn't take long for the main dishes for the party to be finished, and Souma was the one who finished baking the birthday cake. As the food was done, they decided to go up and mingle with the people attending the birthday party. They gave the person who was receiving the gifts the present that they brought, and Souma noticed that the birthday girl was talking with 2 other girls, who seemed to be childhood friends of hers. He quickly went over to introduce himself to her and her friends. He only could tell it was her thanks to a picture his father took with her a couple of years before this day. "Hello, my name is Souma Uzumaki. Mind if I ask you 3 lovely ladies your names?" One said that she was Irina Nakiri. The girl next to her was Hisako Arato, and the girl next to Irina was Ikumi Mito. They had all known each other since elementary school. Ikumi asked him how did he get to be invited to the party, to which he told her that he is the apprentice of Yoichiro Saiba, and as such, he came to help him prepare the food for the party. They were shocked and amazed that Joichiro, who was so famous, had actually taken an apprentice, Irina most of all. If there was one book that she loved more than any other, it was a cooking instruction and recipe book that was written by the same Joichiro this boy had said was basically his MSTR. Irina immediately asked Souma how did he become his apprentice, to which he simply said that Joichiro was close with his father, Minato Namikaze, and his mother Kushina Uzumaki. As people ate the food they were amazed at how wonderful it tasted. In fact, Irina actually complimented him for the way his food tasted, especially the birthday cake. Upon hearing her say that, Joichiro couldn't help but laugh as he told her that he wasn't the one that baked the cake at all, it was Souma the one that made that cake. Irina was both angry and frustrated that the man whom she idolized would try and give the credit for the cake to his so-called apprentice. She immediately asked Souma if he in fact baked the cake, to which he told her that in fact, he did, but Joichiro had actually helped test the batter and frosting, so technically it was a team effort. She was now looking at him with a glare and immediately challenged him to a food war, cause she was not going to stand there and let him claim he had the same talents as Joichiro to be able to match and complement his cooking skills. 3 employees were chosen to be the judges, and they were promised that they would not suffer any negative consequences if they make a fair judgment on the food war. The reason they picked 3 employees is simple, they couldn't pick anyone else because they might be biased or be afraid that they might suffer if they don't immediately say that Irina won. The good war was that both of them had to prepare a dish with the main ingredient, and whoever received the most votes from the judges won. However, it was also a tradition of the food wars that the 2 people in a food war would bet something of equal value. If Souma wins, she had to accept the fact that her god tongue is just a tool, no different than a chef's knife, and if he lost he would admit that he was wrong. For sake of time and ease, her grandfather told them to make an omelette, and for Irina, in order for the food war to be fair, she couldn't use her skill. She was not happy to hear this, but the dish her grandfather chose was not that difficult at all. It was honestly something common people would eat, without realizing that an omelette could be both common and amazing depending on the person who cooked it. As soon as they finished preparing the food, each took turns presenting the food to the judges. Irina was not happy when the judges said that it was good and only had a small bite of it. They literally just took a small taste test and they said it was just good. The next person to present his dish was Souma, and he placed the dish in front of the judges, whose mouths began to water, and as soon as they had a small taste of it, they began to eat the omelette with sheer joy and enjoyment clearly seen on their faces. While they only had a small taste of Irina's, they ate the one that Souma made with gusto, and 2 of them asked if they could have another. Irina couldn't believe as Souma was declared the winner of the food war, much to the shock of the people watching the food war. Irina, you are focused too much on your unique skill, you should focus more on improving your cooking skills and have someone else test your food. Once you improve your cooking skills, you can then use your god tongue to improve your recipes, and thus this will help you become a better cook. Joichiro could only nod in agreement as Souma told her this, and Joichiro told her that this was a gift for her, but not to worry, they actually brought a gift Souma bought for her and it was with the rest of her birthday gifts. She realized that focusing solely on her god tongue skill was a major mistake as it was missing something so critical. It made her realize that if she only had her god tongue skill, what would she be if she ever was in a situation where she couldn't use it? Made her think of the question of how good would her cooking skills be without relying so much on that skill. Seeing this was a major wake-up call, and she also realized this was the reason why her grandfather and father had argued so much about her training. Her father's training of her had been brutal, almost trying to either perfect or mstr her skill. After this experience she realized how wrong her father was and how she should improve, to mstr her cooking skills and the recipe, and only when that is done she would use her god tongue to perfect the recipe. As the party finally got to the presents she opened hers and realized that it was a new edition of the cooking book she loved so much that Joichiro and his wife both worked on, but also a teddy bear with her name that could be seen on the bottom of one of the lower paws, to which both her friends said that they wished that they could have a gift like that, to which Joichiro told them that they did. They sent a teddy bear much like Irina's, but in they had the name of the person who owns it on the same paw as the one that Irina got. As soon as the party was over, Irina's friends apparently wanted to introduce her to Joichiro and Souma, their parents. It was a little weird considering they never even went on a date with Souma to suddenly want them to meet their parents. Alright, kidding aside, they probably wanted to talk to them about the amazing dishes they made for the party. Ikumi apparently got her teddy bear right where the gifts were and she was hugging that teddy bear close to her body. Hisako actually didn't have hers. Her mother seemed to like it so much that she was the one that was hugging the teddy bear, and Hisako was complaining that it was her teddy bear and her mother can go and get one of her own, to which her mother pouted and said she could have it later but the teddy bear was so cute. As Souma heard this he saw that Ikumi's father was about to take the teddy bear from his daughter and quicker than anyone could anticipate or expect he managed to get the teddy bear away from him as he clearly had intended to rip the teddy bear in half as Ikumi was seen crying. Souma was more than a little upset at this, seeing her father treat her this way. "Sir, mind telling me why did you try to rip this teddy bear which I gave to your daughter in half?" He screamed that only the strong may inherit the Mito family meat empire and that by having this teddy bear she would become weak. Souma explained to him that she can still be strong and skilled while still being able to enjoy her childhood and even learn to use that to appeal to others and thus help her in her future food wars and negotiations. So let her be cute and adore her teddy bear, allowing her to be in touch with her emotions, and even when that happens she could be trained to be a great chef. When he heard this he immediately flipped off and tried to hit Souma, but as soon as he was ready to strike, Joichiro appeared in a flash and held the man's hand. "I wouldn't suggest hitting him, he is my apprentice, but even if you don't care about that, look around, every single person here would do everything they can to ruin your company. And that is not even mentioning that you are doing this during the birthday party that the most powerful man in the culinary world organized for his granddaughter, and the one that you want to hit is the person who was simply trying to stop you from abusing your own child, who happens to be the friend of the birthday girl." That made the man realize that by trying to hit him for trying to tell him how he should raise his own daughter, he was practically begging for someone to ruin his entire business, with the sheer number of people attending the party and telling people of how he hit a kid for standing up for a girl if these people simply shared this with every person they know, and how quickly this would spread through word of mouth. This was almost like he was trying to commit business suicide. "Sorry, it's just that what he told me made me feel question how I raise my own kid, like he was completely minimized or disregarding my years of personal experience and authority. It made me so angry that I reacted with the first thing that came to my head. I really should have calmed down and thought things through before I did anything. I am sorry, please forgive me for almost trying to hit your apprentice." Souma told him that it was alright, but he was only trying to get him to see that many women in the world actually love and adore cute things, but when they really need to they are some of the toughest women in the world. "You can say many things, but my mom is one of the sweetest women I know. She is a truly caring and compassionate person, but if I or my sister are threatened, and she was here, she could break a bone in a person's arm like it was nothing." We are talking about a lady who saw that her favorite spatula rolled behind a kitchen counter and she picked it up with one hand and recovered her spatula. The man asked him if what he said is true, to which Joichiro laughed and said that this lady could knock out an entire ring of professional wrestlers if she wanted to. "So yes, Kushina Uzumaki is a very nice lady, but she is certainly not a lady you want to mess with." Ikumi was happy that she got her bear back and she was smiling as she saw Souma stand up for her. As the loving grandfather of Irina finally came to see what the entire situation was, he was quickly told what happened by one of the security people that were pretending to be people attending the party. "So Souma here stopped you from damaging the plush toy that he gave your daughter and tried to explain to you that your actions were both misguided and unnecessary since you could still accomplish what you want without the need for violence and abuse, is that right? Well, how about this for a reason why you will never hurt Ikumi like this again. If I ever hear that you pulled this kind of CRP again, mark my words, I will use my power and influence to make sure nobody buys your meat and every single restaurant and grocery store will boycott your company. How is that for an incentive?" The man knew that he wasn't kidding. He had enough power and influence that he could ruin any business in the food industry with a snap of his fingers. This was not something anyone would want to mess with, and those that do, end up worse than beggars on the street asking for spare change. Now that was taken care of, Souma had to deal with the other problem, which was apparently meeting Hisako's mom, who was for some strange reason still hugging her daughter's teddy bear. If Souma didn't know any better, she was an Inuzuka who was somehow attracted to the scent and was trying to figure out who it was from. Souma, seeing that the mother would not give back the teddy bear, used his creation of all things skill to make a new teddy bear with the mother's name written on the same paw. As he walked over to her, he asked if she would give back the teddy bear to her daughter if she had one for her own, and sure enough, she said yes. Souma walked up to her and he handed her the teddy bear which he just made. It was different than her daughter's. It was a lion-themed teddy bear and it had a sunflower motif. It was the first thing he could think of when trying to think what her teddy bear should look like, and this image of an old anime came to mind. He handed her the teddy bear and she simply gave back the teddy bear that she was holding before to her daughter and grabbed the new one while simply saying thank you to Souma over and over again. With that situation diffused, the party finally came to an end and all the people attending finally left. For 2 months however, Irina and her friends asked if they could get some cooking lessons from Joichiro, and of course, Souma had to help him. Now the thing is, he didn't mind as long as he got to see people smiling as they enjoyed their food. 9 years have gone by and Souma's cooking skills have improved greatly, to the point that he is now a regular third cook at the restaurant, but as he was picking up the dishes a lady asked to see the owner of the establishment, so Souma asked her why she wanted to meet with his father. She then made a big mistake and told him that this rundown restaurant was a waste of space and that she wanted to speak to the owner of the place to buy it. They planned to make a new much better restaurant that would make her a ton of money. So you dare call this place rundown? Well, I have to tell you that you are wrong. We can make anything a customer wants, no matter how difficult the dish is, and I am willing to stake the reputation of this place on it. She smiled that she would accept this challenge, and if the next time he couldn't make exactly what she wanted, he would make sure that his father sold her the restaurant but at cheaper than market price. Souma asked her what would happen if she lost. It would only be fair if she had something to lose. She flat out told Souma that if she lost she would accept any request his father made of her. As the restaurant closed for the day, she promised they would have their little contest the next day and she left with the last customer. Little did Souma know that during the night she sent some of her friends whom she used as bodyguards sometimes to go into the restaurant and ruin all the food in the restaurant freezer and fridge, making sure that he would have none of the ingredients that Souma would need to make the dish that she wanted, ridding this bet in her favor. These men went even further by smearing and defacing the sign of the shop and even rubbing dirt and grime on the exterior. Souma woke up early and went to buy some ingredients for his meals for the day, nothing major, some potatoes, some bacon, some vegetables, and a little bit of butter and cheese. He was planning to make stuffed baked potatoes for his lunch after all. When he saw what they did to the restaurant he was beyond angry. He knew that this was done by her to discredit and ruin the reputation of the restaurant, trying to force the market value of the place even lower. So you ready to make good on your bet? I want a nice meaty dish, something that makes my mouth water. Well, can you make good on that, or are you going to give up and just give me this dump? Souma simply walked in and told her and her friends to follow, that he would have her order ready soon. She made the mistake of asking one of the guys how is he able to cook anything if they had ruined all the ingredients he could use. The guy said the kid must be bluffing, there is no way that he could cook anything without ingredients. He used the potatoes to cut them into cubes and cook them with spices, and once that was done he wrapped the potatoes in bacon, tied them up into nice bundles, and placed spices on them, to place them inside the oven till the bacon was cooked nice and juicy. Look kid, there is no way that you can cook anything decent in this dump. I have eaten in 5-star restaurants, there is no way your crappy dump of a place can cook anything that satisfies me. He ignored her words and concentrated on his cooking. Finally the dish was done and he finally took off his bandana and much like his mother wrapped it around his arm. He walked over with the plate and told her that her order was ready, to which she couldn't help herself. The smell coming from the dish was making her mouth water, but she couldn't let this kid win, so she tried to tell him that she asked for a meaty dish. There is no way that this dish was going to satisfy her since she actually had food cooked with top-grade meat ingredients. Souma told her to taste and see if it for herself, to which she cut a small piece of it, and the minute she ate it, she found it delicious beyond words, but she had to pretend that this dish was CRP or her chance to buy the restaurant would go up in smoke. She quickly told Souma that the dish much like the restaurant was disgusting, to which he sighed and quickly picked up the dish as she was going to take another bite. Well, since this is not to your liking, I guess I need to throw it away. When she heard that was when she began to cry and told him to let her eat more of it. She had to eat more of that dish, and as he placed the dish on the counter and she looked at him, she asked him how could he cook something like this. Your goons did a really good job in wrecking our ingredients, but I had gone out early to buy things I would need for my meals for the day, so I had these ingredients with me when we met outside my family restaurant. One day I was cooking some mashed potatoes and I let a piece of cooked bacon near the mashed potatoes for too long, and wouldn't you know it, the mashed potatoes picked up the flavor of the bacon. This entire recipe came out from one time I failed to cook a dish, so don't worry, I have more than enough for you and these men. Sit down and I hope you enjoy your meal. As the woman and the men with her finished the meal, the men quickly ran towards the nearest grocery store and bought 3 times the amount of ingredients they ruined. She wondered why the hell her men had done that. When they came back they only had one request: they wanted another order of what they just ate. Well, Souma was happy to cook for them, and he only asked them for a small favor, to help him clean and repair all the damage they had done. Joichiro finally came back from helping a friend in a nearby city and saw that his son and all these people were cleaning the outside of their restaurant. This made him question what the hell happened and who are these people. Souma, of course, told Joichiro the absolute truth, and it was quite surprising that someone had tried to ruin their restaurant just so they can build theirs in that exact same spot. Sorry, sir, I did all these things because I was offered a substantial amount if I managed to buy this property for them. My name is Yeiko Minagasaki, and I challenged him to make me something meaty, but I did something horrible. I had my people ruin every ingredient there was, and even cause damage to the front of your place. But your son somehow beat my challenge, and now I find myself having to wait for you to decide what do you want from me. If he wins, I promise to do your family one favor that you would determine what that is. Joichiro saw that the men were indeed cleaning and repairing the damage, and his son told him that the very same people who ruined their stock of ingredients more than replaced it already. Alright, I want you to become our family's realtor from now on. You will be part of our family business, and help me establish many branch restaurants across the world. You will make decent money, and this will help you also help others, which should be a decent way to redeem yourself for your actions. She quickly accepted, almost blushing a little bit when she heard him say that she would join their family business. All in all, she was looking at Souma, who was still cooking when she had been blushing, something that was not missed by Joichiro. But as they finished cleaning and repairing the place, Yeiko told Souma that she would be back later to discuss something else, and without warning, she leaned closer to him and gave him a quick peck on his lips before she left the restaurant. Souma just stood there wondering what the hell caused her to go and do something like that. Well, if you are done blushing, come on son, we need to get ready for today, and I also need to see how much you have improved that you managed to convince that woman. Don't worry, she will be back when we serve lunch, she just needs to take care of something in her old company. As they finally got to lunchtime, Joichiro decided to challenge Souma to a food war. It was not like it was anything new. He has done 5,000 of these food wars, and even managed to win 500 of them. His sister and mother also constantly challenge him. His mother told him to prepare him for the future, and his sister kept her skills sharp. The judges for this food war were actually a waitress that was Souma's childhood friend and former classmate, Ayumi, a cook in the restaurant, and Yeiko, who apparently heard that Souma was going to cook something good, rushed to get back to the restaurant. Ayumi and her father were the reincarnations of the owners of the only restaurant that would serve him food in Konoha, so he knew them pretty well back in his previous life. If his current life had one thing that made little to no sense, was the fact that Joichiro had him spend most of his chakra making durable shadow clones, that Joichiro would later send to study martial arts and all other sorts of things. Souma wondered why, since he had the skills of a ninja, and was even one that managed to become Kage. The fact that Ayumi's father and she were experts in cooking pasta dishes was something that they used to fight a lot of food wars against Souma and his family. They and Souma's family took these food wars as means to improve and motivate themselves to become better at cooking and other restaurant-related tasks. Tucci once told him that in order for a chef to be good enough to run a restaurant, the chef should be able to do the work of any position of the people that work in it. After 30 minutes of cooking and preparing their meals, they were presented to the judges, and in the end, Souma was declared the winner of the food war, which means he was now allowed to attend the same school that his father and mother went to. His sister is a second-year student there, and she could only spend time with him and her parents during summer break. This had been a source of frustration between Souma and his sister. He would ask about the academy, but Rindo would absolutely refuse to break the rule that forbids any student from talking about what happens in the academy with their families. Joichiro told him that the stuff he will see in the academy would make people think the student was nuts if they told anyone else. It was like trying to describe going to an alien world to normal people. Son, you might think of us as inconsiderate and even mean, but there is stuff that happens in that school that doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. What would you say if I told you about a place that had ice cream mountains, plains of golden wheat, luscious fruit tree jungles, and lakes full of different flavored sodas? Animals that are ferocious, but once slaughtered become the best beef, poultry, or fish food you ever tasted in your life. I know this sounds nuts, which is why that rule exists, to protect the reputation of that school. Tomako quickly hit her husband on the head and told him that he was breaking that rule already by telling him that much. There is also another reason why we didn't want to tell you. It is because if we did, would you still have the excitement of discovering the wonder of seeing something you had never seen or heard of before? No, of course not. That is why we didn't tell you stories about our time as students, to make sure you get to have those wonderful experiences and feelings. Your sister is not being mean, she just loved you, as we all do. As Souma heard that, he felt better and he began to wonder how much of what his father told him was real and how much of it was made up, as he was told that next following day he would have to go to the college to take the entrance exam and to make sure he didn't arrive late. Making a good first impression would be important in his academic success. He walked towards the kitchen as he took the dishes of the food war and he simply began to wash them without making any comment or complaint. Time would tell if they are telling him the truth or blowing smoke up his ass. He worked as a prep cook for the rest of that day. Yeiko was strangely looking at him. It was a look that he sometimes saw on Ayumi as she looked at him. The one thing he told him was that the college had a dedicated bus to take new and transfer students to the school complex, and if he missed it, he would have a hard time getting to the college in time for the exam. Most of the time the bus was there to take back the students that failed the exam, or flunk. This school was the pinnacle of culinary education, but it was also an extremely competitive and unforgiving place where they expect and demand excellence. Out of their entire class, which was nearly 500 students, only 6 people graduated, and they had to fight tooth and nail to be able to graduate at all. The very top is members of a council of 20 students, the elites of the school. The first was the junior council, which essentially aids and helps the second group, the elite council. The sense of competition and the reason his parents had challenged him to so many food wars is that any dispute and raise in rank within the academy is solved through a food war. Violence is not permitted against each other. If 2 students had a dispute or they want to resolve a problem, they would be solved through a food war. Even contesting grades was decided through food wars. As for where they live, there are dorms that people live in, and then there are homes that the extremely wealthy can rent for their children to live in. At the very center of the college was also a hospital, which was there to treat students for any minor to major injury or malady, so there is nothing to worry about if he got hurt or there was an accident. However, the fact that combat against beasts and other dangers was expected, so that is why Joichiro and his wife were so keen on keeping Souma's combat abilities up to date. Also, the reason why he had to learn about all those other things to help himself and others around him. Your mother and I lived in the Polar Star dorm, and let me tell you that when you live with others in such an environment, it will not take long before you start to feel that the other people in the dorm are practically family. In fact, that is where both of us remembered our memories from our previous life, and thus that is also the place where your mother and I again fell in love. So you could say that dorm was very influential in the BRTH of you two. Joichiro told him to cook like he knows he is able, and to take every food war like it was an actual war and put in his best effort, and he was sure he would do as well as his sister, which by the way is a member of the elite council. As he was getting ready for bed, he found that there was something already in his bed, and he tried to see what it was. He was quickly pulled closer and he was passionately kissed on his lips, and pulled towards the bed, as he saw the very naked body of Yeiko smiling at him. Took you long enough to get to bed. I don't know when I will see you again, so I decided to give you a little congratulatory gift for winning that food war. Come on Souma, don't tell me you didn't notice, you made me fall in love with you since you won our little bet and claimed my heart. Now come here lover and claim me. The one thing he learned that night is that he was happy that the walls were insulated, cause the things they ended up doing for most of the evening were stuff that people would only find in a XXX ADLT film. He lost count of how many times he brought her to orgasm. But the thing is, as soon as one was done she wanted more. Honestly, he went through so many condos it was not even funny. He woke up early the next morning and just like it was a dream she was gone from his room, except the only thing that told him it wasn't a dream was the smell in the room. He felt like they were 2 animals in heat and they had gone at it like the survival of the entire human race depended on it. In the end, she told him to relax, she was on the pill, and if she wanted to put a bun in the oven he had to first put a ring on it. As he got ready for the day of the entrance exam, he wondered how the hell did things end up like that. One moment she was trying to pressure him into selling their family restaurant, and the next he is fighting yet another food war against his dad, only to end that day with the very same woman that tried to rip off their family, screwing the ever-living daylights out of her. Someone woke up with an extra spring in their step. Guess you had a particularly nice dream, to be young and ever so corny. Don't worry, I got your breakfast ready, your mother deposited enough money for you to use, and today is only the entrance exam, so you don't need to worry, just do your best, blow their socks off and come on home. As Souma went to the local bus station, he quickly took a ride towards the academy, but given the fact that he didn't have much sleep due to him not getting enough sleep due to what he did during the previous night, it was not unexpected that he fell asleep and he ended up missing his stop. To make matters worse, the bus only goes to that academy a limited number of times. So Souma found himself with only $5 and that would never be enough to pay for a cab to take him to the academy. He could stop at a local bank or even try to find an ATM if he actually ever bothered to have a debit card in his wallet, but considering how many times people tried to rip him off or take his wallet, he developed a mistrust of having something that can be used by anyone to take his money, and because of that he found himself having to run back to his stop hoping that he didn't draw too much attention and got to the academy in time for his test. If he missed it, he would have to wait an entire year to try and take the entrance exam again. The waiting was not the thing that worried him, it was the fact that his parents would be upset that this sort of thing happened, especially since Joichiro told him that making a good first impression was very important. From what he understood, they were planning to branch out and have more locations for their restaurant, and having a bad public reputation was not going to help with that at all. As much as Souma could in fact run towards the academy on the streets and the cars would not be able to catch up to him, he didn't want to draw that much attention that would simply cause all sorts of problems and questions he rather not have to answer. So he had to run through the undeveloped land and brush to get to the school, many times having to jump over fences and through yards, but he was so fast that nobody even noticed him. He ran at top speed and made it to the outer limit of the academy, but something about the academy felt strange, like the minute he got close to the property where the academy was he felt like he walked through a barrier of some sort. The real question was whether the shield was to keep people out or to keep something in. As he ran through one of the yards he immediately noticed a friend he made in Denmark, and so he decided to at least say hello. Alice was both surprised and happy to see Souma again, but her only question was why was he there. Souma quickly explained that he was there to take the entrance exam to the academy. In truth, Alice knew that the one conducting the exams was Irina and she wasn't known to be the most patient or merciful of test proctors, so she looked at Souma and told him to wait a minute. She quickly asked her maids to take some of their food ingredients and put them in a bag as a present for a friend. The maids were overjoyed to hear that Alice would do something like that for someone else, especially a friend, so they gathered all sorts of basic ingredients and spices, and placed them all in a nice carrying bag. They gave the bag to Alice and wished her good luck with her boyfriend, which made Alice turn beet red as she walked towards where Souma was. She told him that she wanted him to do well on his exam, especially since her cousin was not going to be an easy person to have to evaluate his cooking skills, but the bag she prepared should help him somewhat depending on what Irina asked him to cook. Souma thanked her for doing what she did, and as he got directions to where the testing site was he say his farewells and took off, placing the bag into a seal that he had actually carved into his belt. As he finally made it to the test site he saw that many other people were waiting for the testing to start, which made him relax, thinking that he didn't arrive too late and missed the exam. He quickly walked towards the waiting area of the test and he could swear he heard things that he didn't think he would hear. He could swear that he could feel the chakra signatures of Ino, Choji, and even Shikamaru all talking about how their lives were, as one of them said that blondes are simply too troublesome. As he continues to walk he felt even more familiar chakra signatures, Niji, Hinata, Rock Lee, and Sai, which made him think all the rookies of Konoha were probably present in either their descendants or their reincarnations. He did remember that his twin sister from that life was currently his big sister by 2 years, so some of them might be there to take the exam and others might be there to scope out potential food war competition. When he finally made it to the testing site, the first thing he saw was a stampede of people who were supposed to take the exam run out of the place for dear life, saying things like, if she thinks your food sucks you will never be able to take the exam ever again. Of course, it has to be a lie. Souma knew Irina, he met her at her birthday party and he even helped her to become a better chef, but in the end, the only people that took the test were the people whose chakra signatures seemed so familiar to him. Irina was many things. She could be nice and gentle, but as a test proctor she was harsh, and she didn't only give a grade, she would give that person a detailed explanation of what was wrong with that person's food and how to improve it. This was not hard for Souma to figure out, since she had a skill that would help her identify mistakes or errors in any food she tasted. The fact is that the test was designed to be brutal because the actual attending the academy was constant competition, people doing all sorts of things to rig competitions, and they would have to fight monsters to get ingredients, which could very well cost them their lives. Out of the few that remained to take the test, all of the boys who took the test before him got a barely passing grade of 5, and all of the young ladies that took the test managed to get as high as a 7, and since Souma was thereafter fighting his way through a horde of monster, having run for over 50 miles to get to the testing site, and he was naturally tired, but in the end, he was nothing if not a true professional. Using some chicken and other ingredients he made a broth, and he mixed that with eggs and placed it in ice trays to be left in a freezer to cool down. The second thing he did was cooked some very delicious white rice, and he did it so that the spices and ingredients would complement the entire dish. He presented the dish to Irina, who immediately knew who he was, so she told him he got a score of 5 in the exam and he passed, except he told her to wait a second, and that is when he took out the trays from the freezer, and he began to pour those cubes onto the rice, and as it melted it coated the rice and mixed, and when he finished he told her that this is the true form of his dish, transforming Gohan. She took a single bite from that dish and she stopped moving, except for the way her body was moving was sort of suggesting that the taste of the food Souma presented was beyond pleasant, it was almost orgasmic. After such a reaction, he actually got a 6, some of the other people who got a lower score wanted to taste this dish, to know why Irina thought that his dish is better than any of the boys' dishes. But as she was done tasting his dish, Souma collapsed on the ground. Some of the people watching began to panic and some even tried to get him to recover, but he was out cold after she saw that Irina simply had him taken to the academy hospital, and the doctor told her that he was simply exhausted. Apparently from the examination he just needed some sleep and to get something to help him recover. Some nice food and drink after a couple of hours worth of sleep should be enough, so she actually had nothing to worry about. Alice heard what happened and came running to ask the doctor how Souma was. She was surprised to see her cousin there as well. So you know Souma, how do you know him exactly? Alice blushed a little and told her cousin that he met Souma when he was training with his MSTR. Her parents asked his MSTR Joichiro to cook the food for a surprise birthday party, and they became friends. They even built a snowman together. Irina laughed and looked at her cousin, who was wondering why was she laughing like that. It seems it is a small world after all. Yes, I happen to know Souma the same way you met him. He helped me understand my unique skill, and he even cooked some food for my birthday party. I could be wrong, but I think my grandfather is a good friend of his father. He happens to be a chef who I happen to admire. Alice and Irina talked about how Souma helped them both overcome their problems, and they soon realized that maybe that is why they went to those birthday parties, that by being friends with them he could help them become better and happier people. Ikumi's life certainly improved after the discussion they had with her father, and Hisako is even closer than ever with her mother, who has taught her many of her family recipes and cooking traditions. The fact is that the currently sleeping young man was making friends with a lot of people, and he somehow ends up helping his friends to become better chefs. The doctor did mention that they had to change his bandages and they need to get out of the room, to which both Alice and Irina told the doctor and nurse that there was no need, they could handle seeing a little BLD. After all, they had butchered animals and even hunted them for ingredients. This shouldn't be a problem. Well, the doctor didn't want to basically commit professional suicide by ordering the granddaughter of the headmaster to get out of the room, so he let them stay. As they removed his shirt and saw his injuries, they realized something. These wounds were caused by beasts that live in the academy hunting grounds, which means he didn't only run to get to the academy but also fought against these beasts. The one thing that struck him as impressive is the muscles on the young man. They were quite impressive, and even Alice was blushing as she saw his muscular chest and those abs that made her think some things she would like to do with him. Irina simply looked at him and wondered how much training did he do to develop that much muscle mass, tone, and definition. It wasn't easy to see due to his clothes being rather plain and ordinary, but as he looked at him, Souma must have been training extremely hard and for a long time, which to her made him that much more attractive. This means he has determination, patience, and willpower. Things that she would one day want in a potential significant other. At the end of the day, the students who had passed and once Souma recovered were given a ride back to their homes. More than likely Alice and Irina both decided to do this to prevent what happened to him while coming to the academy all over again. He was given some vitamins and some juice to help him recover as he boarded the bus that would take him and the other people back to their homes. It appears that the other students are in fact descendants of his old friends and fellow Konoha ninja. They certainly had the same habits and quirks, as they often had the same speech habits and even behaved like them, but most of them only said that they were born with these skills and that they were imitating their favorite anime characters, to help with the stress of the day, or so they told him, but somehow he knew they weren't telling him the truth. It's not like he told everyone he meets he is the reincarnated leader of a ninja hidden village, so he really can't hold it against them. Other people would think they are insane if they went around telling them about their memories from a previous life. As he finally made it home, he had quite a tale to tell them of the few misadventures he went through, all because he didn't go to sleep early enough, or so he told his parents. There is no way that he was going to tell them that a fully grown woman managed to sneak into his bed and waited for him naked, and he ended up going at it like a pair of animals in heat. He had the memories and skills of a fully trained ninja. He should have been able to detect something like that, but living in peaceful times sort of made him lower his guard somewhat. Joichiro simply told him if he had a phone he could have simply called a friend that lived in the city and they would have been glad to take him to the academy, but no, he went and ran all the way there, going through vacant lots, unused plots of land, even jumping and going through the backyards of several homes. Tanaka was not surprised to hear that the beasts that live on the property of the academy were actually no problem for her son. If anything, she was more upset that he didn't live a shadow clone to butcher the animals instead of leaving all that meat and ingredients to rot, to which he quickly told her that he didn't have time, so instead he just stuffed them all into a storage scroll. So none of the animals were going to go to waste. This made his mother feel a little bit better. As they had dinner, they talked about the other potential reincarnations of his fellow Konoha ninja and what he cooked for the exam. It was simplistic, but then again he was tired and didn't have much time to prepare because he arrived at the test, and was the last whose dish was evaluated. As the day was over, he went to bed wanting to get ready for the next day at the restaurant. Little did he know that 4 women that loved him very much had another thing in mind. They wanted to celebrate his acceptance and passing the entrance exam to the most prestigious and demanding culinary college in the world. One of course was the one that rode him CW girl style for hours on end the previous night, Yeiko. The next was his childhood friend, Mayumi. She is a girl he knew since elementary school and was sometimes a judge in many of his previous food wars, not to mention she was the girl that was his food taster for all his weird creations. The second girl was Aki, who was very much trying to get Megumi to finally declare her feelings for Souma, but while doing so she soon realized that she also developed feelings for him herself. And Im, who each was waiting for him naked on his bed much like Yeiko the night before. After he spent the night making love to all of them, he told them that this was the last time he will be able to do this with any one of them, because in a week he will go to find his future wife in the academy, which made them all giggle, but they refused to tell him why. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hector Flores on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.